I'm looking pretty good right now. I'm looking pretty good. Oh, I got a nice little shave going on. Ooh-wee. This video is brought to you in part by Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club sends you stuff not to just shave, but to smell good and look good too, and that's very important for being a human being. They've got razors, they've got shave butter, body washes, and all sorts of grooming products right to your doorstep. It beats going out to the store, and you really can't find a better price than Dollar Shave Club. For a limited time only, Dollar Shave Club is giving away their daily essential starter set, which includes 3 trial sizes of their most popular products, which would be the body wash, the shave butter, and of course, the butt wipes, alongside their exclusive razors and 4 replacement cartridges to go with it. You can grab all of this for $5 through my link at dollarshaveclub.com/downwardthrust. And you better believe that DWT himself, Tone Loc himself, uses these products. So get out there and support your favorite YouTuber who has been working tirelessly behind the scenes to bring you high quality YouTube content every other day.
Regrettably, I have failed in my mission, but perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family, "Thou who art undead art chosen. In thine exodus from the undead asylum, maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know."
The Bonfire. It is as iconic to the Souls franchise as the Triforce is to Zelda and the Mushroom to Mario. Stare deeply into it for long enough and it's easy to enter a state of tranquility, the warm flames almost calling out to you as they beat against the soft echoes of its embers. Far from perfect, the Souls games have been critiqued, analyzed, broken down, and studied pretty much more than any other title in the universe. They're a franchise that has been amazing, mesmerizing, uninspired, and exciting all at the same time. I felt so much emotion in my initial playthroughs of all the Souls games, from reflection to silence and solitude. Its impact to our industry is nothing short of groundbreaking, from defining modern-day challenge to creating a subgenre of action-adventure games that has been heavily replicated to this day. The Souls-like game has a mother, and it is this franchise. The realization of Souls has opened up my eyes to what many other games have lost: a sense of achievement, challenge, elation, and most importantly, a feeling of entering the unknown. To me, the Souls games have always been legendary and always will be, but they are far from perfection. As with any other franchise, much of what has defined its greatness has arguably been lost throughout the years. Changes were made, both hitting and missing. Refinement resulted in much conformity. Much of its attraction has faded away in favor of these things, for good or bad, but its legacy will forever be respected. Today we're going to look at what is arguably one of the most iconic franchises on the market, in its great and terrible form, Souls. Hey guys, before I start this video off, I just want to say that this video on Dark Souls is my opinion only, okay? This is not the word of God. This is not your opinion. This is just how I feel about the Dark Souls universe. So I hope you enjoy it. On October 6th of 2009, a small game from a budding Japanese developer would be released exclusive to the PlayStation 3. Demon Souls was an elusive game, a phantom, or a ghost if you will, that many people never saw. It was released quietly without much anticipation, hype, or marketing. It was basically handed to the industry without any pretense or expectation, in a "here, we made a game, please try it" frame of mind. For a long time, it went completely under the radar. Demon Souls was released in a terrible window of the fall gaming season and had to compete with a myriad of fantastic games with fantastic hype. Modern Warfare 2, Dragon Age Origins, and Left 4 Dead 2. Forza 3 releasing 2 weeks later, Assassin's Creed 2 a little bit later on. For a linear, unknown IP made in Japan with a strange and brooding Eastern dark art style with no traditional multiplayer, Demon Souls was lost in the big throng of titles in 2009. That is, until a handful of gamers picked it up and discovered what it truly was. Demon's Souls was an action-adventure game set in a linear world centralized by a hub. The Nexus was a neutral space that housed a collection of 5 worlds that had nothing to do with one another. Each world was broken up into different levels that had defined endpoints, although you could complete them in any order you wished. Depending on where you went, different experiences awaited. The beauty of Demon's Souls was obviously its lack of interconnectedness. Players simply wandered off in any direction that they wanted to. Assuming you didn't choose the Valley of Defilement, you could kind of complete the game however you wanted. Grab the items that suited your playstyle and clock your own progress. The Nexus provided something that often went underappreciated by gamers. It allowed each world to be its own game. Levels in Demon's Souls don't connect, and if they did, it wouldn't make any sense. Connecting the Tower of Latria or the Shrine of Storms to Stonefang Tunnel, for instance, by way of geometry or physics, would result in a fragmented world. If they had done that, it would have replicated the failure of Dark Souls 2, where lava can flow above an elevator. So From Software didn't even try, instead giving players the feeling of interrelation by way of the Nexus. Demon's Souls, like its sequel, was a challenge that many people were not prepared for. It was a game for gamers and sadists. If you enjoy getting your ass kicked all night long, then Demon's Souls was definitely for you. To combat this hellish difficulty, many gamers resorted to farming healing grass in the Boletarian Palace, but this did undermine the amazing pilgrimage one would otherwise go through to complete Demon's Souls. However, this was rectified alongside many other items in the next game, Dark Souls. I first played Dark Souls in the living room of my parents' house with my best friend at the time. 5 hours later, we had not made it to the second bonfire. We cursed at its oppressive challenge, too hard we thought. He and I had both grown up as gamers our whole life, and we had never been bested by a video game. Not Battletoads, not Ghouls and Ghosts, or Mike Tyson and Punch-Out. Dark Souls was not going to beat us. We played for an entire week, fighting as hard as we possibly could to get to that next bonfire. We died repeatedly, over and over. We attempted to rush through the game next, diving into the bleak depths of the catacombs with nothing more on our back than a basic shield. Down and down we ran, but we only ran into darkness. Eventually we did end up beating the game, and that feeling of satisfaction is a moment that I will never forget. Dark Souls is a magical game that should be experienced by everybody. Dark Souls took the linear roadmap of the original game and just basically threw it into the fire. Instead, we received a twisted, yet sprawling world that was held together by a spiderweb of locked doors, secret passageways, and tunnels. Tunnels that you thought would lead nowhere, yet loop around magically and connect you right back where you came from. Bonfires were littered in just the right spots too, sending you down and down into the unknown, but always within distance of success. A large sensation of verticality was the game's strength, as much of the world hung above you as you descended further down. You were forced into sticky situations all the time. Do I keep going until I reach another bonfire, or do I take my souls and run back to safety, to the surface, to the light, to the bonfire? That fundamental question that gamers had to ask themselves all the time in Dark Souls was the reason this game was fantastic. Dark Souls was a game that tested your patience, not your mechanical ability. There were no complex combos or complicated button presses that you had to sequence correctly. It was about preparation, timing, and basically using your head. If you can find your inner calm, you had a better chance at making it through Dark Souls. The Dark Souls combat, character progression, and explorative style gameplay isn't a recipe of success for all gamers though. It's often a game that is loved or hated. Personally, I think Dark Souls is a true masterpiece despite its garbage PC ports, its horrendous performance, and its clunky UI. But beyond that, the game is a legend. Dark Souls 2 and 3 would be the final games in the franchise, released in 2014 and 2017 respectively, and to many, it would be these two games most often debated, challenged, and criticized. Some would say that Dark Souls 2 is where the fire of the franchise began to die down, and Dark Souls 3 is when the flames went out. But before I slap these games on the asses, I will say that these games do have their merits. Outside of the obvious graphical downgrade, Dark Souls 2 was a very puzzling game, full of, how shall I say, inconsistencies. One of the great mysteries of Dark Souls 2 is the implementation of braziers that you can light along your journey through the game. They would basically light your way, carving a path through the darkness. It is assumed that these were designed as primary light sources initially, to be the light in the dark. But somewhere in the development of Dark Souls 2, these braziers became an afterthought. They start to just disappear as you get deeper into the game, as if From Software backpedaled on the idea of them during crunch time or something. This could explain why additional screen lighting was added as a substitute, though the end result did not replicate the kind of atmosphere that these fires could have created. One might fathom that this issue sprouted from the game's unusual world design. The areas of Dark Souls 2 overall lacked connection, even though the game was masquerading as an open world. Each area appeared to be connected. Somewhere off in the distance you could see them at times, but they really never were. As such, I never got a feel for Dark Souls 2 in the way that I did for the prior games, often becoming lost, wandering aimlessly from area to area, trying to figure out what to do. I believe that this is the reason why fast travel was implemented into Dark Souls 2, as the world was not really designed to promote a sense of cohesion and calculated adventure like the prior two games. It was difficult to find center in this game. While Dark Souls 2 definitely had its moments, the core of the game was a disappointment for me. The combat was stiff and clunky, and bosses were not unique enough. Each boss had extravagant tracking built into their attacks as well, which took away from the reflex-based gameplay awarded in prior titles. Instead, you simply held your guard until the tiniest window of opportunity presented itself, then you struck once and then went back on the defensive. And considering Dark Souls 2 upped the multi-enemy boss encounters nearly threefold, the once epic boss fights turned into endurance runs. It's a shame because Dark Souls 2 did have a select few amazing bosses and moments, from the Pursuer to the Ancient Dragon and the moments you stepped your foot on Dragon Airy. But in my opinion, it was not enough to make it a worthy follow-up to the original Dark Souls. Thankfully, Dark Souls 3 would introduce more interesting boss battles, but where it did better in that department, it failed at others. For some strange reason, Dark Souls 3 ended up being a linear experience which forever will be debated in the Souls community. Part of what captivates people towards a Souls game, I think anyway, is a feeling of organicness to the experience, that you can start from scratch and do what you want to do, have your own adventures. The linearity did give a good journey to the game though, and each level felt more logical and alive, but that linearity did impact its replayability, as each playthrough was basically the same for the first few hours, and even when it opened up, it was still very limiting. However, Dark Souls 3 did have fantastic gameplay. It was both fluid and fast, yet did carry one fatal flaw: the fact that there was definitely an optimal way to play the game: pyromancy and strength. Build variety became a problem, magic classes needed tuning, and weapon arts were a good idea in theory but were only useful in a few situations. Bonfires were too generous, and fast travel was back again. The feeling of getting lost into the game was difficult. As much as I wanted to love Dark Souls 3, and by the way I loved the DLC, I could not find the adventure in the vanilla version. I threw myself in its world and its PvP for weeks, and after beating the game twice, it still felt a bit hollow. Perhaps I was already jaded from being 4 games deep into the franchise, but still, Dark Souls 3 never captivated me. I feel like the game became just too streamlined for the common audience and lost the magic of the original titles. I searched far to find it, but I never did. The ashes, for me, had burnt out. The Souls games will forever be a magical franchise, and also one that spun off one of the greatest PlayStation 4 games ever, Bloodborne. There is much to love in each game, and everyone will enjoy them for different reasons. Just for me personally though, I feel like the fire has gone out in the latter titles. Thanks for watching, guys, I really appreciate it. Once again, this is only my opinion. I know there is a lot of Dark Souls fans out there who have extreme opinions on this franchise, so this is just my opinion. Yours may vary. Go ahead and drop yours in the comment section. I'd love to read it. If you enjoyed the video, guys, like it, and if you did not, you can thumbs it down, and maybe you can find something else on my channel that you enjoy differently. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys in our next video. Peace, love, and happiness until then.